How many people do you know who've allowed their mind to control them instead of the other way around? I want you to think about that for a moment. They wake up, and before the day even begins, their mind is already deciding for them how it's going to go. Their mind starts racing with thoughts of worry, doubt, fear, anxiety. The mind is a powerful thing, but I'm telling you, if you don't take control of your mind, it will most certainly control you. You see, the mind is like a wild horse left unchecked. It will run wherever it wants without direction, without purpose, without focus. But when you learn to control it, when you take the reins, you can guide that horse, you can harness its power. The difference between success and failure in life is often not about circumstances, resources, or even talent. It's about how well you control your mind. The mind is the battleground where success or failure is determined. It's where we win or lose, and make no mistake. It's a battle every day. We face the challenge of controlling our thoughts. The mind can be our best friend or our worst enemy. It can lift us up to the highest of heights, or it can drag us down into the depths of despair. And the difference between those two extremes is what we allow into our mind and how we choose to direct our thoughts. Now, you've probably heard the old saying, as you think, so shall you become. It's an ancient idea, but it's as true today as it ever was. The quality of your life is directly related to the quality of your thoughts. So what are you feeding your mind? What are you allowing to take root in your consciousness if you're constantly feeding it? Negativity, self-doubt, and fear. Then don't be surprised when your life reflects those things. But if you feed it positivity, belief, and hope, you'll see your life start to change in ways you never imagined. Think about this. The mind is always working. It's always processing information. Even when you're not consciously thinking, it's your inner voice that knows what you're capable of, that knows your dreams, that understands your values. It's that inner voice that will carry you through the tough times. Now, I'm not saying that you should ignore feedback or advice altogether. That's not it. There's wisdom and counsel, but there's a difference between seeking wisdom and seeking approval. Seeking wisdom means you're open to learning, to adjusting your course if necessary. But seeking approval means you're waiting for permission to be yourself, to take action on your dreams. And if you're waiting for everyone to approve, you'll be waiting a lifetime. Why do we care so much about what others think? It's because we're wired for connection. We want to belong. We fear rejection. We fear that if we step out of line, if we don't conform to the expectations around us, we'll be cast out. I allowed myself to get distracted, but here's the paradox. The more you try to fit into other people's molds, the more you lose the very uniqueness that makes you valuable. And ironically, it's your uniqueness, your authenticity, that draws the right people to you. You see, not everyone is going to like you. Not everyone is going to understand you. And that's perfectly okay. It's not your job to be liked by everyone. It's your job to be true to who you are, to pursue your dreams with everything you've got. The right people, the ones who resonate with your values, who see your vision, they'll find you, and the ones who don't, well, they were never meant to be part of your journey. They're just part of the noise. They're an autopilot letting their mind run wild, reacting to whatever comes their way. But self-awareness is about stepping back, observing your thoughts and asking yourself, is this thought serving me? Is this thought moving me closer to my goals, or is it holding me back? Now, don't get me wrong. Self-awareness isn't about judging yourself or beating yourself up for having negative thoughts. We all have negative thoughts from time to time, but self-awareness is about recognizing those thoughts and deciding whether you're going to let them stay or whether you're going to replace them with something more constructive. Here's a technique I use that can help you take control of your thoughts. I call it thought replacement. When a negative thought pops into your mind, don't try to resist it. What happens when you try to resist something? You give it more energy, more power. Instead, replace it. If you're thinking, I'm not good enough, replace that thought with I'm capable, I'm strong, I'm worthy. If you're thinking, I can't do this, replace that thought with I can handle this. I faced challenges before, and I'll face them again. You see, the mind can only hold one thought at a time. It's like a glass of water. If the water is dirty, you don't get rid of the dirt by focusing on it. You get rid of the dirt by pouring in clean water. The more clean water you pour in, the clearer the water becomes. In the same way, the more positive, empowering thoughts you pour into your mind, the less room there is for negativity. And I'll tell you something else. Your mind believes what you tell it. If you keep telling yourself you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not capable, your mind will believe that. But if you start telling yourself a different story, your mind will believe that too. This is why affirmations are so powerful. Affirmations are simply statements that affirm what you want to be true in your life. They're a way of training your mind to think in alignment with your goals and aspirations. Tell me, what are you affirming in your life? Are you affirming your potential, your ability to succeed, your capacity for greatness, or are you affirming your limitations, your fears, your doubts? What you affirm, you become. So be mindful of your words, be mindful of the story you're telling yourself, because that story will shape your reality. Now, one of the most difficult things we have to face when learning to control our mind is fear. Fear is one of the most powerful emotions we experience, and it can easily take control of our thoughts if we let it. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. These fears can paralyze us, keeping us stuck in place, unable to move forward. But here's the thing about fear, it's all in your mind. Fear is a product of your thoughts, and because it's a product of your thoughts, you can control it when fear shows up. Don't run from it, face it, acknowledge it, and then ask yourself, is this fear real or is it just a thought? Most of the time, fear is nothing more than a thought, a projection of what might happen, not what is happening. And because it's just a thought, you have the power to change it. You have the power to reframe it, to see it in a different light. Here's something I learned a long time ago. The best way to overcome fear is to take action. Fear thrives on inaction. The longer you sit and stew in your fear, the bigger it becomes. But when you take action, even a small step, you break the grip that fear has on you. You start to see that fear is just an illusion, a creation of your mind. And the more action you take, the less power fear has over you. Now, here's another important part of controlling your mind. Focus. What you focus on expands. If you focus on problems, you'll find more problems. If you focus on solutions, you'll find more solutions. If you focus on lack, you'll experience more lack. But if you focus on abundance, you'll start to see abundance everywhere. The mind is like a magnifying glass. Whatever you focus it on becomes larger in your experience. So where is your focus? Are you focusing on what you want, or are you focusing on what you don't want? Are you focusing on the possibilities, or are you focusing on the obstacles? You have the power to direct your focus. You get to decide what you're going to give your attention to. And I'm telling you, your attention is one of the most valuable resources you have. Don't waste it on things that don't serve you. Don't waste it on negativity, on distractions, on things that pull you away from your goals. Be intentional with your focus. Choose to focus on the things that move you closer to where you want to be. And here's another thing about focus. It's not just about what you think. It's about how long you think it. You can have a positive thought, but if you only think it for a moment and then go back to your old patterns of thinking, it won't make much of a difference. You've got to sustain your focus. You've got to keep your mind fixed on what you want, even when distractions try to pull you away. Now I know what you're thinking, Jim. That sounds good, but it's easier said than done. And you're right, it is easier said than done. But here's the good news, you can get better at it with practice, just like anything else. Controlling your mind takes practice. You want to master it overnight, but with time and effort, you'll get better at it, and the better you get at it, the more control you'll have over your life. I want you to think of your mind like a garden. A garden requires care, attention, and effort. If you don't tend to it, weeds will grow, and those weeds will choke out the plants you want to grow. But if you're diligent, if you pull the weeds, if you water the plants, if you give the garden the attention it needs, it will flourish. Your mind is the same way. If you don't take care of it, if you don't pay attention to what's growing in there, negativity, doubt, and fear will take room. But if you're diligent, if you're intentional about what you plant in your mind, if you cultivate thoughts of positivity, belief, and possibility, your mind will flourish. You'll see the results in your life. Your relationships will improve. Your career will take off. Your sense of well-being will skyrocket. But it all starts with controlling your mind. You have to be the gardener. You have to be the one to decide what gets planted and what gets uprooted. And that takes work. It takes discipline. It takes effort. But I promise you the rewards are worth it. So what's the first step? How do you begin to take control of your mind? It starts with a decision. You have to decide that you're going to be in control, that you're not going to let your mind run the show anymore. You have to make a commitment to yourself that you're going to do the work necessary to train your mind. And once you make that decision, you've got to follow it up with action. Start by becoming aware of your thoughts. Start paying attention to the story you're telling yourself. Start replacing negative thoughts with positive ones. Start focusing on what you want, not what you don't want. And most importantly, don't give up. It's not always going to be easy, but if you stick with it, you'll start to see the results. Years ago, I met a man who was struggling in his business. He was a hard worker, but no matter what he did, he couldn't seem to get ahead. He was frustrated, and he didn't understand why things weren't working out for him. So we sat down and talked, and it quickly became clear to me that his problem wasn't his work ethic or his skills. His problem was his mindset. He was constantly focused on what wasn't working, on all the things that could go wrong, on all the reasons why he wasn't succeeding. And because that's where his focus was, that's what he kept experiencing. I told him, you've got to change your focus. You've got to start focusing on what you want, not on what you don't want. It wasn't easy for him. At first, his mind had been conditioned to focus on the negative for so long that it took real effort for him to shift his thinking. But over time, he did it. He started to change his focus. And as he did, his results started to change too. His business began to grow. His confidence increased, and he began to see opportunities where before he had only seen obstacles. Here's the point. When you control your mind, you control your destiny. You have the power to shape your life by shaping your thoughts, but it all starts with you. No one else can do it for you. You have to be the one to take control. And I want you to know that it's never too late to start. It doesn't matter how long you've been letting your mind control you. It doesn't matter how many negative thoughts have taken root in your consciousness. You can start today, right now, to take back control. You can start to plant new thoughts, new beliefs, new possibilities. Remember this, you are the master of your mind, not the other way around. Your mind is a tool, and like any tool, it's meant to be used for a purpose, but you have to be the one to guide it, to direct it, to control it. And when you do, you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish.